Hey, we're back with yet another Fact Friday. In the previous episodes, we've explored some glorious combination of mathematics and literature. In this episode, I will be taking you all on an intriguing journey to a place which truly is an architectural marvel. Located in the heart of Bengaluru city is an area called Gavipuram. This is home to the most famous temple, Gavi Gangadhareshwara, where the chief deity Shiva is worshipped in the form of linga. The word Gavi translates to cave and Gangadhara translates to the one who adorns river Ganga. This temple also has entrances into two secret tunnels which led to Shiva Ganga and Kashi. A steady, thin stream of water always flows through the cave. This explains why Shiva is worshipped as Gangadhara in this place. So what is special about this place? Before moving further, let me discuss the structure of the temple. On stepping into the forecourt, you'll notice some unusual features. Unlike most South Indian temples, the complex is aligned to face the southwest direction. This perhaps is the first clue for the temple's astrophysical relevance. In the forecourt stand two monolithic structures named Suryapana and Chandrapana, each consisting of massive disc atop supporting pillar like giant stone lollipops. The discs are identical in size and have a diameter of about 6 feet. Grooves cut into the discs are at right angles to each other on both faces, giving them the appearance of a sniper rifle's crosshairs. A small flight of stairs leads one down to the cave that is hardly 6 feet high. A statue of Nandi faces the main idol here. Reverting back to the question, what's unique about this place? Makara Sankranti, also known by other names like Bihu, Pongal, Maghi, Magha Sankranti, etc., is celebrated as the harvest festival in different parts of India and Nepal. This festival marks the entry of the sun into the zodiac sign of Capricorn and Uttarayana, the movement of sun in the northward direction. Every year, on the auspicious occasion of Makara Sankranti, the temple is a witness to a headlining celestial event. The rays of the descending sun makes their way through an arch on the temple's western compound wall. The rays, passing through a couple of windows into the cave, gradually traverse the length of Nandi's body in the direction of his head, and an hour before sunset, precisely at 5:19 p.m., the rays fall on the foot of the main idol. In 10 minutes, these beams envelope the idol for 5 whole minutes. This annual ephemeral event is called Surya Majjana or sunbath. But why does this happen? A unique and crucial characteristic of the Earth is the tilt of its axis with its orbital plane, which is 23.5 degrees as of today. It is because of this tilt that we experience seasons and such mesmerizing celestial phenomena. The tilt causes the points of sunrise and sunset to move like a pendulum between tropics from one extreme in late December to other extreme in late June. This is called the winter solstice and summer solstice respectively. Now at each hemisphere summer solstice, the sun is directly overhead at the respective extreme tropical latitude, that is, on 21st June at Tropic of Cancer and 22nd December at Tropic of Capricorn. These are extremes of a pendulum motion. But for a person located between these tropics, such as some person in Bengaluru, the sun is overhead at noon twice a year, once when it moves from north to south and once again when it moves from south to north. So when you think about it, shouldn't the phenomenon take place twice a year? Yes, in 2006, a scientist in Bengaluru sought out to investigate the matter further. It was observed that the shadow of the western pillar would fall exactly on the eastern pillar on summer solstice sunset in late June, and the shadow of the flag post would fall on the vertical mark of the eastern crosshair's disk. Similarly, the shadow of the eastern pillar would fall on the western pillar on winter solstice sunrise. But the reason for this phenomenon being visible just once is that the construction of the westernmost pillar blocks the sun's rays from ever reaching the idol from winter solstice onwards. This happened just a couple of centuries ago. Earlier, people were able to witness the celestial glory twice a year. Wasn't that wonderful? But hang on, don't you think there is something missing here? As I mentioned earlier, Makara Sankranti marks the beginning of Uttarayana, which is the start of sun's northward journey. This is supposed to be the longest day and winter solstice by definition. But according to our Gregorian calendar, winter solstice falls on December 22nd every year. Then why this confusion? Here comes the concept of precession. Over the long term, approximately 25,700 years, the Earth wobbles around its axis, slowly changing its orientation like a spinning top. This event causes a gradual shift of pole stars once every thousands of years. Similarly, the date of Sun entering the zodiac sign also varies by 1 degree every 71.6 years. Hence, if we are lucky enough to be alive to witness this, we can observe that Makara Sankranti shifts farther away from winter solstice. In fact, after about 12,000 years, Sankranti would happen in June, in the peak of northern hemisphere summer. It's amazing that about 1700 years ago, the winter solstice and Sankranti were on the exact same date. It's fascinating that Indian astronomers were aware of this and computed accurate values of the dates of this festival several thousand years ago. In conclusion, since Surya Majjana does not coincide with solstice and Bangalore is not tropical, a partial illumination can be observed at the temple on summer solstice, which is not publicly acknowledged by the temple authority. Hence, all the circumstantial evidence suggests that the construction of a pillar to move the edge of the cave and shifting of sun's rays at solstice from illuminating the shrine is the scientific reason behind this magnificent astronomical drama that happens once a year.